Hi, this is Karen Flaherty from Living by Human Design, and this is a video about the throat center, one of the energy centers in your human design chart. So the throat center is the center for communication and manifestation with words or action. It's the brown square, third from the top, and it's all about speaking and doing. It's all about making things happen in the world. If you believe, as I do, that thoughts become things, this is the place where they become things. So about 70% of the population have a defined throat center, but there are two types of defined throats in human design. One is the motorized throat and one is the non-motorized throat. And the people with the motorized throat are the manifestors and manifesting generators only. They have a motorized throat, and I'll talk about the motorized throat. The open throat is actually more like the non-motorized throat, and I'll talk about that in a moment. So if you're motorized, which means your throat is connected by a line to a motor in the chart, that means that you can initiate conversations. And the unmotorized throat, for them, it's actually best to act more like the open throat and to wait for people to invite them to speak. So the defined throat, though, does have a fixed way of communicating. Whether it's motorized or not motorized, you do have a fixed way of communicating. And it's always easier to be heard and to talk when you have a defined throat center. So when people are actually talking to you, you will be able to speak in a consistent way. You'll have a consistent way of speaking, and the other centers that your defined throat is connected to will determine what you naturally talk about. So if your throat is connected to the ajna, for example, if there's a line going from the throat directly up to the green triangle pointing down, then you'll talk about what's on your mind or what you think. If it's connected to the G center, which is the big yellow diamond in the middle, you'll talk from the depths of the soul of your identity. It's almost as if you're wanting to let people know what you're really up to and what you'll share yourself with them. And if it's connected to the will center, which would make you a manifester, or manifesting generator, again, you would talk about yourself. You'll actually talk from an ego perspective or about material things, and that's actually correct for you. There's really nothing wrong with somebody with the defined will center talking about themselves. That's what they're here for. If your throat is connected to the solar plexus, which is the emotions, you'll talk about your feelings. And if it's connected to the spleen on the left side of the body graph, you'll talk about your intuitive awareness in the moment. So the defined throat in a healthy state is where you enter into conversations correctly, where you know your true voice, and where you can speak clearly from and through your true voice and share with others what it's like to be you. So for the open throat, which is about 30% of the population, is actually open or white on the chart. Your throat will operate similarly to the projectors and generators who might have it colored in, but not motorized. And so if you have it in either, if you are a generator or projector and have the throat open or it's not motorized, these same ideas will apply to you. You can always ensure that your actions and words will emerge correctly by following your type and strategy. Too many people act or speak either too soon or too late, as you've probably seen in life quite a bit. And so the golden rule for the throat center, whether it's defined or open, is actually to follow your type and strategy, and then the timing will always be correct. So the open throat center and the non-motorized throat do sometimes struggle to be heard. They often feel like other people just don't listen to them. But here's the thing, the open throat is not designed to initiate conversation. When an open throat person does try to initiate conversation, other people will usually become annoyed by them, or they won't listen to what they're saying, and this can be very painful or frustrating to the person with the open throat center. They, in fact, should wait to be invited, or at least recognized to speak. And it's really a motto of silence is golden for the open throat, because you want to enter into conversations by following your type and strategy. And for the generators or projectors, that's going to be exactly either waiting to respond to somebody who asks you a question or asks for your opinion or wants to know what you're thinking, or that you're actually invited to speak. If you're in a group or in a meeting or a large conference or something, you really want to wait to be invited to speak. So if you do have something important to share with the group and you're kind of impatiently waiting to initiate the conversation, to share it, you'll usually find your contribution either gets ignored, wasted, or even outright stolen. I've definitely had this happen to me in meetings. So the not self open throat, this means when you're not following your strategy and you're not waiting to respond, they're almost always trying to attract attention. They often do or say things that are inappropriate in an attempt to be seen and heard. And some examples of this would be the person who comes in very late to a meeting, or the person who's wearing either very, short skirts or inappropriate dress for the occasion, or people with lots of jewelry or big hair, or any of those things that might attract attention because they innately, whether it's consciously or unconsciously, realize that people will not talk to them unless they're wearing something flamboyant, something that is loud, or something that kind of, screeches out, I need attention. There's nothing wrong with that, but that's what tends to happen with people with the open throat. Also, people with the open throat can't be scripted. They feel nervous about giving voice to ideas or concepts according to a script. And a lot of times we should realize that people with the open throat, what comes out might be either blunt or shocking or irreverent or inappropriate. And so it serves all of us to have a sense of humor about this. And oftentimes the not self behavior of talking too much and at the wrong time will eventually manifest as thyroid problems. So just imagine that the person with the open throat, and sometimes even with the non-motorized throat, they'll either be very one way or the other. They'll either be very, very quiet, a little shy perhaps, reluctant to speak. On the other hand, especially if they're around a lot of people with the defined throat, which they'll be taking in the energy of, they'll be the chatty Cathys. And they'll be the ones who can't stop talking all night at the party and then wake up in the morning with a very hoarse throat because they've been talking so much. The wisdom of the open throat is really in learning when to speak and how to speak in a number of ways, because the open throat has the potential to express one idea in a lot of different ways. And they can actually do a speech, for example, and have an audience that's quite different from the one they had last week, and they'll be able to gear it exactly to that audience. They also can speak, usually can learn or speak many languages. They have a gift for that. And they actually can understand languages when they're in other countries, even if they don't speak the language. So it's really quite a very wise tool that they have when they have an open throat. So the open throat in a healthy state is where they know that if they're patient, they'll be given the opportunity to speak. And one thing that I suggest actually is either if you're in a meeting, raising your hand or getting the attention, making eye contact with the leader of the group so that you can have a chance to speak in a way that doesn't override or raise your voice in any way during that particular situation. Also, they'll become comfortable with silence and not feel the need to fill silence with conversations. And also they'll know that when they open their mouth to speak, what comes out is usually unpredictable. Thanks so much. I'll see you in the next video.